In breaking down this fight, UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall was saying that he thought you've gotten favorable matchups until you ran into Ankalaev, and the result kind of proved he was a bad matchup for you. I'm just curious if you think that is fair or an unfair analysis, and just your response to Tom.
Yeah, we're talking about the biggest organization in the world. I'm a guy who comes from kickboxing. I had no grappling experience, little experience in MMA, and we're talking about the highest level of the sport. So if you were to put the worst guy in the UFC against me, I would be at a disadvantage. So that makes no sense.
Tom Aspinall didn't mince his words when giving his thoughts in the UFC 320 main event.
It's heavyweight, but like Adam said, I feel like if he's lost twice in 2 title fights against the same guy, he can only beat other contenders who he's basically already beat. There's not a lot of other, maybe, he beat Yuri Prohaska twice, didn't he? Yeah. So there's not a lot of guys. Jamahal Hill he beat, Khalil Roundtree he beat. A lot of the top contenders he'd already beat him, so what's he going to do? Just do rematches against guys he's already beat. So 38 years old, he might as well, in my opinion.
The heavyweight champion felt that Alex Pereira had been fortunate with previous stylistic matchups on his way up, but against Magomed Ankalaev, things were never going to be simple. In Aspinall's eyes, even though Pereira held his ground and shut down the takedown attempts in their first fight, the simple threat of wrestling was enough to throw off his rhythm and slow down his dangerous striking. He saw Ankalaev as a nightmare stylistic puzzle for Pereira, and he didn't believe much would change going into the rematch.
It's heavyweight, but like Adam said, I feel like if he's lost twice in 2 title fights against the same guy, he can only beat other contenders who he's basically already beat. There's not a lot of other, maybe, he beat Yuri Prohaska twice, didn't he? So there's not a lot of guys. Jamahal Hill he beat, Khalil Roundtree he beat. A lot of the top contenders he'd already beat him, so what's he going to do? Just do rematches against guys he's already beat. So 38 years old, he might as well, in my opinion.
Take a shot at heavyweight?
Might as well.
I felt he was an oversized middleweight. He was big compared to all other middleweights. I think as a light heavyweight, I think he's just sized right. So as he's moving up with the bigger boys again, I believe it might just be a wee bit too much for him, and I don't think that power will transfer well. We're already seeing it's not transferred great up against guys like Ankalaev, right? He's had a few knockouts, but as he goes up the higher weights, these guys hit hard and they're looking to slug, whereas I don't think he's in that. He's not wanting that.
On the flip of that, if he wins, I mean, that's an unbelievable victory to get one back over the guy that has beaten him previously.
Definitely. I think he's definitely got a chance. I do think he's definitely got a chance, and I think he might be able to do it. But if you're asking me if I was going to put money on it, I would go Ankalaev.
That sense of doubt surrounding Pereira wasn't limited to Aspinall. Alexander Volkanovski also leaned in on Ankalaev's direction, pointing out the Russian's ability to adjust his game on the fly. Watching the tape again only reinforced what he already thought. Ankalaev could switch his looks, play with his stance, and adapt defensively to stay safe. For Volkanovski, Pereira still had the power to do damage, but facing a fighter who could just be as comfortable switching stances as controlling distance made things harder for the Brazilian. He expected Ankalaev to push for a more wrestling-heavy game plan in the rematch, not necessarily to land takedowns, but to smother Pereira's danger zones and keep himself out of trouble.
Pereira can still do some great work, but if people are very effective with southpaw, it can make it a little bit harder for Pereira. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't mean that he loses every time he gets southpaw. Just he finds that a little bit harder, especially when you're effective with the southpaw, like Ankalaev will be. So I'm going to have to go with the favourite on this one. Do you do a parlay with Pereira on that as well? Oh, but okay. So a parlay that you could definitely see happening right now is the 3 underdogs here. So Pereira being there, parlay, you could definitely go there and get some major value in that. I'm picking, if you're just picking on who's going to win this, I think Ankalaev does it again. I think he's going to be more wrestle heavy. Will he get the takedowns? No, but he's safe enough on the feet to just constantly get himself out of danger. He's going to be fit enough. You know what I mean? So when there's danger and if Pereira's doing a great job, he can stick to him a little bit, then get himself back there, get him out of danger, win back that octagon control, do enough to just win 5-round decision. So I'm going to have to go with Ankalaev for the win. Can Pereira get the knockout? 100%. But I think Ankalaev wins.
Robert Whitaker offered another detailed look at the matchup, and the former middleweight champion struggled to map out a clear route for Pereira to win. He believed that Pereira had been too hesitant in their first fight, never quite taking control of the exchanges. In his opinion, Pereira is at his most lethal when he's moving forward, pressing and stalking opponents rather than backing up. Whitaker compared his best performances to a hunter who overwhelms his prey, pointing out that the only time Pereira failed to look like that was when an opponent pushed him back early.
What would Pereira need to do to have turned around their first fight? He needs to move forward, be less hesitant. I feel like he wasn't leading the dance. Pereira doesn't fight as well going backward as he does going forward, okay?
Yeah.
What made him so dangerous to the guys he knocked out consecutively was the fact that he was just hunting them the whole time. The only time he didn't look like that was when Khalil took it to him in that first round. Granted, it didn't age well, faded away really quick afterwards, but that happened, okay?
Yeah.
So Ankalaev was putting pressure on him, giving him different looks, attempting to take down, whether he was actually seriously going for it or not, but he was making Pereira work, okay? He was creating different looks for him to make him hesitant, not be on the front foot. Pereira's best rounds were later in the fight, okay? I think when he got over that. But like I said, I just find it hard to see where he goes, because what does Pereira need to do? He needs to go forward, he needs to be the hunter, the aggressor, needs to get behind his punches, believe in that, to try and land those hits, to start those impact shots, to change the pace of the fight so that he can lead the dance and start picking him apart. But if he does that, maybe Ankalaev doesn't just attempt 11 takedowns, maybe one of them land.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in that first fight, if Ankalaev would have gotten him down for a round, that looks very different.
Not every fighter shared that skepticism though. Dricus du Plessis believed Pereira still had the tools to turn the tables, and he described Pereira as a completely different beast when moving forward with confidence, throwing heavy hands and overwhelming opponents. In their first clash, Ankalaev had forced him into the back foot, smothering him and robbing him off his natural rhythm. Du Plessis thought this wouldn't be the case again. He saw Pereira as sharper, fresher, and far more dangerous heading into UFC 320, confident enough in his pick to say he would even bet on the Brazilian.
It's tough. I know Pereira took a step away for a while, and that's good. I mean, he was too active. I think a lot of people want to see these fighters being active. I like fighters that are active, but it's impressive. That's why I rate Pereira as one of the greatest combat athletes to ever walk this earth. Just the way he's been, he came in with not a lot of experience and just ran through everyone and the best of the best. But with Ankalaev, he's big, he's strong, and in that first fight, he just had the answers to beat Pereira, and he fought a smart fight. Not necessarily the most exciting style, but he fought a smart fight. Don't give Pereira the distance where he can, catch you with those massive punches. But I mean, I've been looking at the training footage of Pereira for this one. He looks scary. He looks angry, and we'll see what that loss did to him. He has come back from a loss and came back to reclaim the title, but this fight is a big fight for him. But Ankalaev now has that confidence, of course, of being the champion, but I'm going to go Pereira on this one.
Dustin Poirier also was firmly in Pereira's corner. The lightweight legend made it clear he expected Pereira to bounce back with a vengeance. What stood out to Poirier was the ever-present knockout power Pereira carried. In his view, that weapon remained the greater equalizer, one that didn't fade no matter how the rounds played out.
Alex needs to keep the distance better, do what got him to be the world superstar we know. Keep the distance and look for those big shots, look for those big knockout punches, look for those big kicks, those big knees, do damage, do what he does best. Similar to the advice I gave Gamrot, don't play the clinch game, don't get put up against the fence, don't let the time run off the clock. And that's what Ankalaev needs to do. I think he needs to smother Pereira. Don't be in the striking danger in the middle of the octagon. Just let him slow down over the rounds so where that power and that pop is a little bit less. You can see things coming a little better. That's what I think needs to happen.
Stephen Thompson felt Pereira's biggest problem last time had nothing to do with technique. In his opinion, Pereira was just burned out. Fighting too often and staying too active had taken its toll, leaving him looking drained and flat on fight night. Thompson argued that now, after taking time off to heal and recover, Pereira would step back into the octagon looking sharper and hungrier. He expected a refreshed version of the Brazilian to rise to the occasion and reclaim his crown, crushing Ankalaev in the process.
He had fought so many times in that past 2 years,
And this was the fight that it caught up with him. Your reflexes start to slow down, right? Your mindset is you start getting into a rut, and your mind begins to be dull, I guess, to your reactions. Like, you see these punches coming, but I can't get out of the way of them. And it's like your body is just too worn down that, you know, they're not all there. They didn't look the same. If you notice, Alex just didn't look like the Alex of old. And I do believe he was too consistent. But I was there live for that fight, and I predicted the next time that they fight, Alex Pereira is coming with a vengeance. I predicted that he's going to take some time off. He's going to get his body and his mind time to heal and relax, and he's going to come out the Alex Pereira of old. So I think he's got the skill set to beat his opponent. He just wasn't there. His body wasn't there that night. His mind wasn't there that night. His reactions weren't the same. His speed wasn't the same. And it's because he was too consistent. But if you notice, we haven't seen him in a while, have we?
Not as much.
And I think he understood that. I think his coaches understood that. You need some time off. You need to break. You need to give your body time to heal. And I think it's going to be all Alex this time. I think he's going to go out there and he's going to crush him.
Chael Sonnen brought a different angle altogether. He wasn't focused on the fighters as much as the matchup itself. Sonnen admitted he had never really liked this fight, saying the first meeting only happened because the UFC was short on options at the time. The company had tried to line up other names like Alexander Rakic and Khalil Roundtree Jr. to test Pereira, but eventually settled on Ankalaev. Now, with a rematch booked, Sonnen didn't feel fans had been clamoring for it either. In his eyes, if Pereira managed to win, the UFC would be stuck making a trilogy, whether anyone wanted it or not.
He showed he's a coward. We'll see. He's hiding now. We'll be in the cage, locked in there, unless he jumps the fence. He's a shitty champion, this guy. Never heard Alex talk like that about any of his fights.
I love that, Jama. I love that. You know, I've got a chance to see Alex a few times just here and there, and I really like Alex as a person, and I like the fact that you know, he's kind of settled down his life a bit. Just kind of really got dialed in. You know, sometimes success can make you be your own worst enemy, just being so spread out, going here, going there, and you overbook your schedule, and before you know it, you're doing all the other things more than you are actually doing the thing that, you know, that you're making your money from. So I'm glad that he's kind of reconnected to that savage part of himself, because listen, this isn't a nice contest. Yeah, it's great, you can have respect for your opponent, but there has to be that part of you that is just an asshole, to say the least. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be a savage in there, and for him to tap back into that savagery, he's gonna need that. He's gonna need that. So I'm glad that he's feeling that way, and I'm glad that he's not liking them. Shake hands and be friends after the competition.
Despite those criticisms, Rashad even saw Pereira as a new light. Watching the Brazilian in training and in interviews, Evans noticed a ruthless energy and a renewed fire. He believed that when fighters tapped into that savage mentality, they often became their most dangerous selves. If Pereira channeled that mindset fully, Evans thought he had a real shot at revenge.
If he wins, to be positive on the Alex Pereira side, would you drop the belt and go up? Or
no.
I mean,
no, they won't let him.
Stick around and fight the winner of Prochazka and Roundtree, or
no, he's not going to be in there with Prochazka again, most likely. Who's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But he's just not going to be in there with him again. But therein lies a part of the problem. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I don't know what Ankalaev gets if he wins. He already beat him. Nobody asked for this rematch, including Pereira. Ankalaev asked for it. It was a little bit odd. Ankalaev actually got a little bit nasty, calling, but come fight me. It's like, he just did. What is it that you planned that you're bringing the belt this time? I mean, it really was a little bit of a confusing situation. And then to your point, what happens if he comes and picks it up? Well, the right thing to do would be to go to the trilogy. So now you're telling me we not only got to see him fight Ankalaev again, which we didn't want the first time. We didn't ask for it this time. Now you're telling me we might have to see it for 10 more rounds. I'm just sharing. I think it creates more problems than it solves. That's what I think.
Dan Hardy pointed less to mentality and more to strategy. He felt Pereira had been far too respectful in their first encounter, reacting instead of dictating. In Hardy's view, the key was for Pereira to force the issue, take the center, and pressure Ankalaev onto the back foot. If he did that, the rematch could look nothing like the first one.
So what do you think that Alex Pereira needs to do this time around to get his hand raised and win that title back?
I think he needs to close the range down a little bit. You know, I think maybe he had a little bit too much respect for Ankalaev in the last fight. I also think he wasn't quite sure which hand Ankalaev was going to play. You know, and Ankalaev is very, very confident as a striker. His wrestling's always been a backup in his game, and he's never particularly wanted to use it too much. But just the idea of it being there, the threat, I don't know, it seemed to make Pereira just kind of hesitate a little bit too much. And Pereira, when he's at that close range, either when you're coming to him, like when Strickland fought him, Strickland was walking into his range, or when someone's moving away and he's walking into their range, like Jamahal Hill, it's that, like, you feel that pressure of his kind of frame coming at you, and people feel like they need to react. And what I love about it, there's really good videos of him training online where he slips offline and counters with power punches. And the slip of the punch loads the power punch to come back. So his ability at close range to not only kind of bear over people and make them anxious, but also to pressure them to throw, in which case he feeds off it and works with counters. Like, if I'm Pereira, I would be thinking about getting as close to him as possible, getting in his face, maybe even try and use a bit of tie clinch just to kind of, you know, manage the clinch a bit. But I would also think that he's going to be better defending takedowns on the front foot as well, right? You know, better if he's pressuring forward and forcing Ankalaev to shoot under pressure. That would be my thought process, but I don't know. I mean, we might see a very different Ankalaev this time around, you know, and that's also something that Pereira's got to adapt to in that first round.
Semmy Schilt, the legendary kickboxer, broke things down technically. He believed Pereira had been caught off guard by Ankalaev's boxing skills and stance. Pereira, he argued, had grown used to certain looks in sparring and wasn't fully ready for what Ankalaev brought. Schilt suggested that to prepare properly this time, Pereira needed to train with right leg forward kickboxers who could also box effectively. That, in his eyes, would help him better manage distance in training, two areas that gave him trouble before.
Yeah, I think Ankalaev, was it, Ankalaev?
Yeah.
I think Ankalaev was a much better boxer than he expected. And I just look at the fight again. And normally, or the most of the times, he's fighting two left leg forward fighters. And they are not the best kickboxers. And now you're standing against the right leg forward, and he can do boxing. So I think this is, he took away Alex's strongest weapon, like the calf kick. And if you look at the fight, you see the moments that Alex is doing well, is moments that he is left leg forward. So when he's stepping forward and do something, then Alex is gonna have the right distance. So what I think Alex should have done for this fight is, for the next fight, is to train with right-legged kickboxers who know how to box, who are good. You know, because this guy is a good fighter, and when you're standing right leg and against left leg forward, the distance is much more bigger. You have to turn the different way. And of course, Alex's reaction in the stand-up fight is great. He can use that, and also like the takedown defense. That people say, the takedown defense is not good enough, but I think this is all good enough. He just should train more with right-legged forward people. I think, in my opinion.
Even Jamahal Hill, who had been a champion himself, found it tough to confidently pick a winner. Hill admitted Ankalaev was a grinder, relentless and consistent, but also acknowledged Pereira's ability to adapt and adjust. For Hill, the fight would come down entirely to what changes Pereira made, and he expected the second clash to be much more competitive than the first. He said, "It's a good fight. I believe it will be a lot more competitive than the first time around. I believe that Alex Pereira is a smart fighter. I believe he does make good adjustments. He's always grinding. He's always working. But the same can be said for Ankalaev. Ankalaev is a grinder. He's a very game opponent, but I believe it's all going to come down to adjustments that Alex makes. The important thing is on Alex to make adjustments, and we're going to see if he can make them." Daniel Cormier's focus was slightly different. To him, Pereira's downfall in their first meeting wasn't grappling defense, but passivity. By backing up constantly, he allowed Ankalaev to take control of the cage and dictate terms. For Pereira to succeed, Cormier emphasized the need to cut off the cage, stay aggressive, and let his power go without hesitation. Otherwise, the same story would play out again.
I think, as you said, it didn't feel like there was going to be much of a difference. But what did feel different was Alex wrestled much better than we expected him to. He defended takedowns much better than we expected him to. He was not ground to the ground. Now it's up to him, Plinio and Glover, and we have seen him come up with game plans before, to make it to where Alex can actually go get it done and not get pressed against the octagon. That's where the difference has to happen, Chael. He wasn't taken down, but he was controlled. So he was controlled in the clinch last time. He was backed up the entire time. How does he move forward without Ankalaev actually pressing into him? I think he needs to get some respect from him very early, Chael, to make Ankalaev take a few steps back. Because right now, Ankalaev has been in there with him, and he'll have more confidence that he can handle the power of Pereira than he did going into fight one. The unknown is the scariest thing in fighting. Man, everybody this guy hits, he puts down or he bludgeons them. Now he knows he went 25 minutes and that didn't happen to him. So imagine the confidence that comes with that. Piss off Poatan. This guy's been golden for us in regards to stepping up and fighting. But he's plus 150 against Ankalaev, and Ankalaev's minus 180. Chael, I got a question. Are you surprised at the line being that close? Because what we saw in the first fight, it didn't seem like Alex had much for him in regards to answers for stopping Ankalaev from pressing him up against the octagon.
It was a hard fight, and I will tell you that Alex won the first round. That's according to the judges, not just according to me. And then he proceeded to lose the next four. Listen, when that contest was over, I didn't think that any reasonable analysis could come to the conclusion that if they did it again, we would get a different outcome. There was also a little bit of a resistance by the fight. This was billed a little bit differently. It seemed like the UFC was on board, but it was Ankalaev that was going and picking the fight with Alex. It was Ankalaev that was challenging him, calling him out. And I only wonder, generally when a fighter will do that when he's the champion, when the champion starts calling somebody out, particularly a guy that he just beat, it's because his own social media, his own world, the bubble that he lives in, people are disputing it. People are telling, hey, you couldn't do it again. Hey, Alex was hurt. Hey, he fought 4 times in 9 months. Try doing it again. Something like that must have happened to Ankalaev. So I think that the audience perhaps saw it a little bit different than I did. But a lot of times I learned something from the audience. So I'm very open to this idea. But Daniel, how are we going to get Pereira to heavyweight? That's my question. And when he moved up to 205, people kind of misremember this. They think he ran through 85 so much we'll let him go. But that's actually wrong. He lost. He lost is the reason that he was able to move up. And I only share with you, if he loses to Ankalaev, I believe he will be a heavyweight. But I just believe that's the spot we're in right now. He just lost Ankalaev. He doesn't have a belt. I kind of wanted to see him up a division.
Arman Tsarukyan wasn't buying any excuses. For him, Ankalaev simply had the better overall skill set. He pointed out that Ankalaev's sharp left hand and damaging leg kicks had thrown Pereira off balance, and he didn't see Pereira having a solution for that. From his perspective, nothing about the first fight was surprising, and he fully expected the rematch to follow the same pattern.
What do you think of the main event, Magomed Ankalaev beating Alex Pereira?
I know that Ankalaev gonna beat him if it's not lucky punch. We know like Pereira, he's so dangerous. He has a good left hook and kicks, leg kicks. But first round he started with leg kicks, and I was scared like again they're gonna like kill his legs, and then he gotta change his stand. But then he could change his game. He started to go forward, and he won last I think 4 rounds.
So you scored it for Magomed?
No, 3-2. 5 was like even 50-50, you know, you never know.
All of these differing perspectives painted a fascinating picture of the upcoming fight. The narrative heading into UFC 320 was one of clash not just inside the cage, but of opinions across the fight world. Some expected Ankalaev to grind out another disciplined win, while others envisioned Pereira coming back sharper, hungrier, and more destructive than before. The only certainty was that the rematch carried far more intrigue than the first, with both fighters having something to prove and the MMA community split right down the middle.